I am now opening the January Left Tube Retirement Board meeting to order. At this time, I would say let's take a moment of silence for the lost members over the last month. Thank you for that. At this time, I'm turning the meeting over to Steve Nelson. Steve.
Thank you, Pat. First up on the agenda today is a presentation on the annual financial audit. The results are in from the state auditor's office, and they have a team here to present those results. I believe Laura's taking the lead on the presentation today, and so at this time I'll turn it over to her and the rest of the team.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for this opportunity for us to be here today to share the results of this year's Left Board financial statement audit. My name is Laura Shackley. I was the auditor in charge of this year's audit. With me today, I also have Cabin Bush, who is the audit manager for our office, and Michael Hutchinson, who is an assistant audit manager and was a supervisor of this year's Left Board audit. One of the most important things about audits is their role to increase trust in your government. Our audits are able to do this because the public trusts the state auditor's office as an independent organization that provides transparent examinations of their operations of state and local governments. Another important role of audits is their ability to identify areas where their efficiency can be improved and where you can be more effective in complying with requirements. Audits can also tell you where you are already working efficiently and effectively. Our goal today will be to make sure you understand the results of your audit and answer any questions that you may have.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Okay, looks like I'm good now.
Is everyone able to see the screen? I apologize.
Okay, your slides are fine.
Okay, thank you. So we conducted a financial statement audit for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. The objective of a financial statement audit is to issue an opinion as to whether the information included in the financial statements can be relied upon to make decisions. We are pleased to report that we are issuing an unmodified, clean audit opinion on the Left Board's financial statements. This is the opinion that you want to receive, and it provides assurance that the financial statements are stated fairly and are materially correct. Additionally, we reported no significant deficiencies in internal controls. We identified no deficiencies that we consider to be material weakness, and we noted no instances of noncompliance that were material to the financial statements of the board. In our review of the Left Board's financial statements, we focused on three major expenditure categories to conduct our review. These three areas were salaries and wages, contractual services, and employee training and development. In our review of salaries and wages, we tested to ensure that all expenses recorded in the financial statement. For our testing of contractual services and employee training and development, we tested to ensure that all expenses were properly classified in the financial statements. In addition to these areas, we also reviewed the presentation and disclosures of the financial statements. In doing this, we reviewed to see that the financial statements were clearly and appropriately presented, note disclosures were complete and accurate, and if any significant financial events occurred, they were properly disclosed in the statement notes. We are required to note whether there were any material or large misstatements that were identified and subsequently corrected by management. We are pleased to report that there were no material misstatements identified during the course of our audit. Now that we have shared the results of the Left Board's fiscal year 2022 audit, we do have a few closing remarks to bring to your attention to conclude our presentation. First, we are pleased to report that the cost of our engagement was in alignment with our original estimate. Additionally, next year, should the board choose to contract with our office, we estimate the number of hours to be the same as this year. We expect the Left Board's audit report to be published on our website within the next 1 to 2 weeks. If you have not already, you can sign up to receive email notifications on when reports are released, as well as other news, articles, alerts, including resources our office publishes. Please note that in the past, as a courtesy, this email included a link to the report on our website and also may have attached the final report as a PDF. We have changed this practice in our continuing effort to clearly communicate with you while following cybersecurity best practices by avoiding extra links and attachments. Our new correspondence will notify you when our reports are released and provide helpful instructions on how to locate your government's audit report on our website. In addition, we will also be sending you a customer service survey. We encourage you, as well as anyone else that participated in the audit, to complete this survey, as all feedback is helpful in improving our services and knowing how we can better meet your needs. Please feel free to forward the survey on to anyone that you believe might like to share feedback on our services. Before we wrap up our presentation today, we would like to take a moment to thank management and officials for timely communications throughout the audit process. In particularly, we would especially like to thank Seth Flory and Jessica Burkhart for responding to all our requests promptly and helping us to have a smooth and easy audit. This concludes our presentation, the Left Board's audit for our fiscal year 2022 results. We want to thank everyone for your time today and for your participation in this meeting. At this point, we would like to open it up for any last comments or questions you may have.
Comments,
Are there any
questions?
questions?
Oh, excuse me.
No. Sorry, Pat.
Jump in, buddy.
Does anybody have any questions for the auditors? I want to thank you as well for your professionalism working with our team throughout the audit process. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And I wanted to reiterate what Laura said, that we really appreciate the cooperation and ease with which this audit is conducted. So thank you to everyone involved.
All right. If there are no questions, we'll let the auditors go and we'll move to the next item on the agenda. Each year, the Department of Retirement Systems does a presentation to the board regarding kind of the customer service side. We had a presentation earlier in the year on the admin side where they talk about the results of their benchmarking, how they're doing. This is more of the what's next from the management side. Today, the presentation will be done by Sean Merchant, their ledge director. Many of you remember Sean from his time on the Left 2 board. With that, Sean, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Steve. I think I have my microphone on, the little lights on. It's like we're doing karaoke. For the record, Sean Merchant, Director of Legislative and Community Relations for the Department of Retirement Systems. I appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you, some in person and some virtual. It's always a bit like coming home when I get the chance to talk to the Left Board. So I do like this and appreciate it. So as Steve said, we want to kind of give a little update on where we're at, how things are going with the Department of Retirement Systems, and sort of some priorities that we have going into legislative session to take care of our team and therefore take care of your members, which are our members also. So with that, if I can look at me. Let's go to pensions at a glance. Our membership continues to grow. As of the quarter ending June 30th, 2020, there were a total of 884,000 plus members in our systems. And of those, we have 339,614 active members that are working and contributing to our plans. We also have 218,000 annuitants, so that's retirees, beneficiaries, and others who are receiving monthly payments from the department. We also have a pretty sizable number of inactive members, folks that work for a short period of time and leave, but then may come back. But we have 326,585 inactive members, so they've left, but they're not yet receiving payments. Some of those folks may just be deferring their retirement to a later date. Financially speaking, we are a large financial organization. We kind of consider ourselves to be financial organization like fund managers or even banks, that sort of thing. So we take it very seriously when we're looking at your finances, your money. We've got $178 billion that is held in the retirement trust funds. That's what's invested by the State Investment Board. And this kind of always surprises me. We collect $5 billion annually in contributions, and we pay out $7.1 billion in benefits and contribution refunds. I remember when I started in the pension world, I guess Steve, it's about 19 years ago. I think we might have cracked $1 billion in the trust fund or thereabouts. And not too long ago, we were paying out like $5.5 billion. It continues to go up as the plans mature and more people get to retirement age, and we get to take care of them and give them everything, which it includes your members, everything that they have earned through their working career. But it's kind of surprising to me to think about $7.1 billion. It's an enormous payroll that we run every month. And we, like I said, take it very seriously and safeguard and watch that. We also do the DCP, Deferred Compensation Plan for the state. Some of your members are in, probably not as many as we'd like, but of that, it's a pretty sizable little piece too. There's $7.2 billion in total assets in the state's Deferred Compensation Program, and there are 115,000, almost 116,000 total participants now in DCP. And of those, there are 77 plus thousand that are actively contributing to the plan. And of note, more than 57,000 of those participants have been auto-enrolled since there was a bill that passed in 2017 making new employees automatically enrolled in DCP with a pretty small but a 3% contribution rate. And also of note of that, it's sort of a testament to auto-enroll in DCP. The average retention rate of those people that are automatically put into the plan is 88%. So we're pretty pleased that we're able to do that and help those folks achieve a more secure retirement also. Question? Most, yeah, at this point, there's been some talk of can we expand that to other groups of employees also. That would require some legislative action for that to occur, but yeah. So this is a map we like to put up. It's the benefits that are paid by county. You can see how much is going to each county, going to retirees in each county. About 86% of the benefits that are paid of that $7.1 billion are paid to in-state recipients. So it's a pretty decent economic driver that we've got going there. And this map shows how the benefit payments are distributed by county during fiscal year 22. And this comes from page 6 of our annual comprehensive financial report. So this is something that's pretty, every year we kind of have this kind of data. And it's interesting to see how the dispersal is across the state. Next, we wanted to drill down a little bit because what's important to you. Here's the left two benefits by county. So it's essentially the same map with just your data. This 82% of benefits are paid to in-state left two recipients. So again, that's a pretty good economic driver that your members that are retired are contributing to our economy. And again, this shows numbers as of fiscal year 22. And this was kind of custom made by our office, so we can, now that we have it, I'm sure we can sort of continue this if you're interested in sort of tracking how these things go. But I wanted to kind of show, you know, where your people are and how much they're receiving. This year for the legislative session, we're not pursuing any large policy ideas or goals. We really want to take care of our team members. We are currently in process to replace some of our aging systems that were, well, frankly, older than a lot of our team members are. That's in the works, and the money has been sort of earmarked for us to do that. But we also realize we need to take care of our people, our team members. So we have 2 budget requests this year, and that is for people and to increase their compensation to process retirements. We use an independent benchmarking service, CEM, that the investment board uses as well. We've been using it for probably over 20 years, and it has consistently showed that we are below our peer average in terms of the number of FTEs or employees that per member. We're 38% lower than our peer average in terms of the number of team members we have to help our members. And also of those, we found we're also paying them 12% less than our peer average also for really pretty complicated work. CEM has consistently shown that the state's pension system is it always bounces between kind of 4th and 5th most complicated in the nation for our peer average, which is, it's interesting, but I'm not sure it's necessarily a point of pride because it's really complicated. And as each session goes by and new changes occur, it layers on a little bit more complexity. So we need some people to account for that and to serve our membership in the most efficient and best way that we can. So those are the 2 things that we're asking for. They are currently in the governor's budget. We're happy about that, that the governor saw fit to put it in his budget. We're hoping when the chambers and the legislature release their budgets that they likewise will see fit to include our ask as well. But those are our big things. And then we're also, as always, around and available to talk to the actuary's office and other groups about potential legislation, so we can have a heads up on administrative changes that we might have to make and make sure that it's workable for everybody involved. Next, this was a big one. The Left Benefit Enhancement Project, just an update on that. It was more than we thought it would be in terms of the lift that it took to get this done. It seemed like, it should be pretty straightforward, but it was a pretty big deal for the agency to get this done. I don't think I need to go over the nuances of the benefits. I know you're all completely aware of that. But as of one note is active members can now use the online benefit estimator to include, it includes the benefit enhancements. So that was a change to make it so you could sort of help yourself online. That's that should be handy and nice too. But a few notes we paid out. Let's see. I guess I'll go to the next payments. You can see that the payments that were made for LEF 1 was about 190 million. LEF 2 is 225 million. And it shows the estimated average payout for each of the members. And I don't know how much you want to go into that, but as of January 13th, we pushed the button. The payments were starting to go out, and we paid around 13,000 members in $400 million, which was part of the challenge was working on cash flow with the State Investment Board, because they needed to know how much cash they'd have to have on hand, because they don't just liquidate that stuff, immediately. They need to do it in a thought out, thoughtful process. So some of the key dates as of December 28th, new retirees can make their benefit enhancement elections online, like I said, at the time of retirement. On the 13th of January, the lump sum payments went out. By the end of January, annuities should be paid. So they took a little bit longer to calculate because it's not as straightforward as the lump sum payments. Also of note, members who retired prior to October 2022 and selected the tiered multiplier, they'll receive their increase for the first time at the end of January, as well as the any retro payment back to their retirement date. Because again, it was more complicated to get that set up, but we will make sure everyone is whole and gets what they're entitled to. The members who have retired in November or December of 2022 have the benefit recalculation done in February. Again, it takes a little time with our system to do these things. And we'll apply the new benefit enhancements for the first time at the end of February. Do you have any questions on where we're at, Mark? Yep. Mm-hmm.
So on that January 13th date, does that include?
Mark, can I get you to turn your microphone on, please?
Okay, sorry. So does that include all the left two retirees who got a lump sum benefit, or they're still lagging? Or is there a way that an individual can contact DRS and ask the question about their personal account?
That should be, I would say, the bulk of all of the retirees. I can't say with absolute certainty. There are some one-offs that we're going to require a little additional work if there's some lagged reporting from employers, that sort of thing. That might be an issue that would cause it to be a little bit delayed. Members can always contact the agency and look at their specific account. I've been doing that for some members, particularly there's left one members that had questions too, and we can absolutely get into an individual's account, make sure what the payment is and where it is in process if they, for some reason, haven't seen it. But I would expect the vast majority have. But you can forward me anyone that you've got.
Is there a difference between processing or timing for members who are going to get just a lump sum payment versus a rollover into another?
Rollovers, if you're going to roll it over into a financial institution, that is going to take longer. Because we have to work with the financial institution. So basically the cash out lump sum went first. Rollover should be occurring again by the end of the month, January. They should happen, but some of those may take a little bit longer to process. But again, I always tell people, if it's my money, I'm watching the account, and if it seems sort of hinky toward the end, absolutely call us. But at the end of the day, we're going to make sure that everybody gets what they're entitled to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Sean, this is McGilligan.
Hi.
How are you doing, guy? Hey, one of the questions did you send out emails to everybody that was receiving their money to show them that it was in their account?
I do not believe we sent out an email to everyone. No.
Okay.
They could always look on their online account, access, and it would show there. Or again, if for some reason they don't know or didn't see it, they can contact the agency also.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yep. Any other questions? Well, I appreciate your time, and I'd love to come speak to you guys. So we'll talk soon.
Just a comment real quick, Sean.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to you for reaching out regarding the left one, the payment. I know that was helpful to have that information ahead of time. We were able to share it with our membership, so I just want to say thank you. It helps.
Well, I appreciate that, but I also apologize that we had the hiccup that we had with the left one lump sum payments and disabilities to begin with, but I appreciate your graciousness.
Thanks, buddy.
Sean, this is Steve. I know a bunch of the people on the project are watching, and I want to thank you and the rest of the team at DRS. You did a great job throughout the interim, keeping us up to speed on the types of questions you were getting so that we could help out when those questions came to us, and letting us know where you were at in the process all the way through, right up until today. So I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate the partnership with DRS on this.
Thank you.
And just one comment, just not from my position here, but just as a member, retired member. So I think the same thing. You guys, DRS is doing a fantastic job. It's a lot of work. I mean, I can tell that there's a lot of complexity to getting everybody their money according to the statute. And I really haven't heard many complaints, just some questions from members down sort of in my neck of the woods. But I think it's a wonderful job that DRS has done.
Thank you. We appreciate that, but I also want to let you know we want to do even better. We want to improve, continue to improve our customer service, membership service. So I appreciate it, but we also are striving to even do better in the future. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. It looks like Dennis is there, so I will turn over kind of my emceeing duties. I will, one heads up, as we go into this portion of the agenda, we change things up. And so Jacob will be doing the legislative update. And with that, I will turn it over to him.
I'm just surprised Jacob's not sitting up front.
Not handing that over yet. Okay. So for the record, Jacob White, staff to the board. So today you're going to be providing just an update on legislative session. I did want, in case people didn't see it, I am going to be sending out an email, hopefully weekly, to all the board members during session, just updating you on just what's going on, if we're testifying for any bills, and any news around legislation. Click here. Okay. And before I start this, I just can't help myself. I wanted to add a little to what Sean said to Mark's question about auto enroll. That was just a bill that I worked on when I was in Sean's position, so it's something I follow real closely just because it's been so successful. But just wanted to say that local employers can opt in to auto enroll. The legislation just didn't require them to. So there are a few employers that have chose to opt in. So just something to be aware of.
Just a quick follow-up on that that comment, though. So is that a function of collective bargaining then, or can the employer mandate that the members are enrolled?
I believe the employer could mandate it. I don't think it's required to be bargained.
Okay.
Okay, so wanted to start off with the just the one left to endorse bill this session, the no-cost interruptive military service credit bill. So I testified in front of House Appropriations on this bill on Monday. There were no questions, although there was an issue raised by David Pringle, who is the staff attorney for House Appropriations, that he had concerns that the bill was not explicit in how it should apply retroactively. And so he was recommending an amendment. So I did let the committee know that it was the intent of the board and the select committee that it apply retroactively. That was an assumption the last couple of years when the bill's been proposed. It's been in the actuarial fiscal notes, and so it's the first time that issue has been raised. And so how that would apply retroactively is that people who've already paid for partially subsidized, that they would be refunded that money, and then they would, they would be refunded for that. It would not apply retroactively for people who've already retired. They would not get a check going back to when they retired. They would just get the increase in their benefit moving forward. So there may be an amendment. We'll work with the committee on that to make that clear. The Senate version of that bill has not had a hearing yet, but we're monitoring that closely. And then some other bills that are not Left 2 bills, but bills that we are following because of their impact or potential impact on Left 2 members. Go ahead and start at the bottom there with the governor's budget was released and had its first hearings. The main point for us that we're following with that is that it does fully fund Left 2. So we'll keep an eye on that as the additional versions of that roll out. And then House Bill 1279, which ensures that promoted firefighters remain in LEF 2. So this was an issue that behind the scenes, LEF 2 staff have been working with DRS on over years, but it's been working more and more closely over the last year with them on this. We reached a point where we were not able to agree on amendment or them adopting a new rule. And so that has now moved forward, separate from the LEF 2 board, but it's moved forward as a bill. And so what this bill would do is current rule at DRS requires that to be a firefighter, if you're not a supervisory firefighter, that to be considered a firefighter, your position must, I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but it must at least have the possibility that you go out and fight a fire. And this would, and there's a gray area that occurs where positions never actually do that, but a position description has to say they might. And so it's an area that's just kind of grown more and more complex as fire departments have changed over the years and grown larger. And so what this bill would change that definition to requiring that they, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm blanking. Steve, can you help me out?
Thanks, Jacob. So what the bill would provide is that if the job description requires that the person be an experienced firefighter in order to meet the minimum qualifications, then they can remain in LEF. So for instance, if you're an employer and you want to hire a firefighter trainer, you obviously want somebody experienced to do that job. And so even though the trainer may not ever be expected to go out and fight fires anymore, they would remain in LEF. Similarly, there are some management positions that you want an experienced firefighter for. They would remain in LEF. And another example that has come up frequently is fire marshals, arson investigator type positions. They go out and determine what has caused a fire, and you want to experience people for that, but they may not be expected to fight fires in the future. Those positions would also remain in LEF.
And Steve, just for clarification, because I know if people are watching the question on the fire marshals, we're talking about internal candidates who promote up into a position that is administered by the fire department, is not a agency on the outside of a department. You know, as an example, that we have a state fire marshal's office.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, Dennis. That term fire marshal sometimes gets used differently in different contexts. Another group that would not be included in LEF is positions with some cities and counties where the duties might be more in the area of fire protection type duties, but they don't require an experienced firefighter as part of the job description.
So when the statute says experienced firefighter, does that experience have to take place in the state of Washington?
No, it does not.
Okay, because for example, I'm aware of a number of jurisdictions that hire somebody who's retired from California or Texas or other places, and they go straight to be the fire chief. So is this designed specifically for those circumstances as well, or would they be? Is that?
So those ones would already be in because they would fall under supervisory firefighter. So there's just this gray area where you're not actually a supervisory firefighter who's automatically in whether they fight fires or not. And there's these other positions where the employer would require someone to be experienced, but they may not be required to ever actually fight a fire. But whether they're training other firefighters or being a fire marshal, they want that experienced firefighter, but they don't want to the employee to have to choose between promoting up into that position and losing left membership.
I've never seen a fire chief actually fight a fire.
Okay. Thanks for the help on that, Steve. And then another bill that we're keeping an eye on is House Bill 1413 and the companion to that 5424, which is concerning flexible work for general and limited authority Washington peace officers. And so what this bill does is currently both general and limited authority officers are required to be full-time, and that's not just for left purposes, but that's for to be commissioned. And so this would change that definition that they could be part-time. And so it also changes the definition within Left 2 to allow for part-time general authority law enforcement officers. It does not allow in to left limited authority officers. So it does keep that at general. And then there's one other bill that was not on this list because it just came out yesterday, and I was just talking to the actuary's office about it this morning. But House Bill 1380, which is regarding the recruitment and retention of law enforcement officers. And so this bill does a lot of different things, but the issue that I'm keeping an eye on is that it does pay bonuses to current law enforcement officers for retention purposes, and then possibly for recruitment also. And so talking to the actuary's office and DRS about first whether those bonuses would be considered earnable compensation, and then whether the actuary's office would believe that this bill would impact their assumptions regarding new hires and retention of law enforcement officers. So just in the early discussions of that, so I don't really have any detail to share on that. And then also, normally we don't talk about bills that haven't actually been dropped, but we did get permission to discuss with you a potential bill that we've had a chance to review the draft language of, that is regarding allowing tribal law enforcement officers to join Left 2. And so the drafting of this bill, they used the study that the board did a couple of years ago to draft it. And so me and Steve have both had a chance to look at it, and it addresses all of the concerns that were laid out in that study. There's one possible issue that was not clearly addressed in there, so still looking at that. But that issue was regarding withdrawal liability, which, just a reminder on that, was typically not typically, in all cases with Left 2, once you join the system, you are in the system. And actually with Left, you don't even have a choice. Once you're in, you're in. With PERS, there are some employers who can opt in, and once they opt in, you are in. You cannot leave the system as long as you continue to exist as an employer. And so tribes would be different because of their sovereignty. They would have the ability to potentially leave the system. And so there's a potential liability there. And so as part of the study, we laid out that other states use the payment of withdrawal liability. So when someone does leave the system, there needs to be an actuarial analysis of whether there's any potential unfunded liability that they're leaving the rest of the system to pick up. So that could be a little more clear in the draft language. That might be a potential issue. So I don't know if there's any questions about that or any of the other bills.
Yeah, Jacob, Jason Graham here.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir. Yeah, we did. I've had some conversations about the tribal bill, and that is something that, in order to gain some clarification, I did talk to Director Nelson about, and specifically the service separation issue. Kind of raised an eyebrow with me. Just because it doesn't seem to be as clear as it could be or maybe should be. And in those discussions, it sounded like probably not today, being that it's not a bill, but something for the board to consider for possible board action on taking some kind of steps to clarify that language for the service separation issue. And did you want to chime in on that, Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. I appreciate the chance to kind of talk through those issues with you and you bringing them up today. What Jacob mentioned and what Jason is talking about is we, in reviewing the bill, didn't feel like the withdrawal liability piece was called out explicitly. I will say that the staff who wrote the bill believes that it is addressed in their language. We thought it could be called out a little bit better, but they believe it is addressed. And so if the bill gets a hearing, that's an issue that we expect to get discussion. And then again, Jacob will be doing the weekly updates to all of you about bills, and when this bill drops, if it does, we'll be tracking it. Two things that I've been making clear to stakeholder groups and interested parties, staff, or legislators on the Hill is that, one, the board made no recommendation. We did the study, but the board made no recommendation one way or another on the merits of this type of proposal. We'll be available to answer questions. Jacob and I will be closely watching any potential amendments. As Jacob mentioned, with the exception of the potential clarification on the withdrawal liability issue, the draft that we saw kind of lined up with all of the key issues that were identified in the report. So we'll make sure that any bill that's introduced matches that draft, and then we'll carefully watch any discussion about changes throughout session. And it'll be part of both the regular weekly updates by email from Jacob and the monthly board discussions with the ledge updates. And I don't know if there were any other questions or if there was something else that you wanted me to cover in more detail, Jason.
No, that was it. Thank you, Steve.
I think Mark has a question.
Yeah, so there's a question for you, Steve. Would you anticipate potentially that the board would indeed take some action in order for you or Jacob or somebody else to testify on behalf or in addition or working for an amendment that would make things clearer, I guess? I have never seen, I haven't heard from it or about this particular issue previous today. I'm just wondering, how is it possible that we would need to make a motion and take some action?
It's possible, especially if there's any changes. So typically the board does not take positions on membership. So new groups of employees joining LEF, but if there were amendments to the bill or issues in the bill that raised questions about, for instance, one of the issues that was covered in the study had to do with making sure there's no commercial employees, because that could endanger plan qualification. The bill does that, but if there's any potential amendments that raise that issue, that is something that we would expect to testify on, whether or not the board had had a chance to take action. Other than that, if there was any testimony at this time, it would be simply along the lines of that the board took no position on this issue, and creating the opportunity to answer any questions about the board study that legislators might have.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so there's no other questions about ledge session. That completes my presentation.
Thanks, Jacob. Not
Thank
seeing
you.
any. Steve, on the bottom, we have the left two bills, the other bills of interest, which we covered, and then we have the administrative update as our last item. Assume that's going to be
Yes.
you.
Yeah. So the only thing I wanted to bring up in the administrative update is there are a couple of key outreach activities that take place during session. There's the legislative conference for the State Council of Firefighters, and then there's the winter meeting for WACOPS. They'll both be taking place the same week, coming up here in just a couple of weeks. We will have people there to talk about the board's recommended bill and to answer any questions about, potentially the tribal bill or any of the other bills of interest. The other piece, Sean did a great job of giving you an update on the implementation of the benefit enhancement, so I don't need to say anything further on that. But are there any questions? We did get a budget update, but it was too late to include in your material, so we'll plan on having that for you at the next meeting.
Okay. I'm looking, I don't see any other questions, and you mentioned that next meeting, and I believe we're scheduled for the 22nd of February
Yes.
for the next update. Okay. Not seeing any other questions. Any other comments from this team? Tim, you got anything? Are you guys good? Okay. All right. I know Pat, thank you. I think he's enjoying himself in beautiful Maui right now. So thank you for your time this morning. Thanks for calling the meeting to order. With that objection, we'll go ahead and look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion made, second adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who want to stay, they can talk to Pat while he's in Maui. All right. Have a good one, everybody.